Six Music.
BBC Radio 6 Music Documentaries.
I'm Matt Everitt, and this is The First Time, where we speak to some of the most influential figures in music about the pivotal first moments that shaped their lives and careers, the events that led them to be where and who they are now. It'd be no exaggeration to say today's guest is one of the most groundbreaking guitarists in popular music. His work with the Smiths alone would be enough to put him up there with the greats, but he's since played with Electronic, The Pretenders, Modest Mouse, and now is a fully paid up member of The Cribs. It's Johnny Marr. For many people, including me, hearing Johnny play with the Smiths in the 80s was like witnessing a whole new kind of guitar player. In contrast to the plank spankers of the time, this was a cool guy. He wore cool sunglasses, he had cool hair, he didn't say very much. When he did, it was cool. But most of all, he made a great sound, steeped in a love of 60s pop, but experimental at the same time. His style and sound defined a whole era of British music, inspiring countless other bands as diverse as Radiohead and Oasis. I'm very pleased to welcome Mr. Johnny Marr.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
First question we're going to ask is, when were you first aware of music, even as a tiny kid?
Well, I was always aware of it in a big way because my parents have, to this day, still like absolute music obsessives, and record collectors, and they still buy a lot of CDs. And parents both Irish, and they were very young when I was born, and when I was a little kid, and they were in their early 20s, and they came over with a extended family from Southern Ireland and brought with them a mixture of American rock and roll music and early country music, which they were very fond of. And they were, being young, they were very, very into pop music of the day. So that was pretty much the most important thing in the house, really. Bar none, really, more important than anything. And my dad played harmonica and accordion and all of that, and all my uncles and aunties all sang and played and everything. And they were all very, young, very young family. I was the firstborn, and so I, over the years, like lots of cousins and springing up, and there was a lot of weddings and christenings and stuff like that, not necessarily in that order. One of my earliest ever memories, if not the earliest, is of seeing these two young women standing at one of those little record players, dansette things, up on a high shelf sideboard thing, and playing a record like 14 or 15 times, just playing this 45 over and over again, and kind of dissecting it. I was thinking about it recently, and there was one, in terms of memories of songs, one song really that kind of really almost took over the atmosphere of my early childhood, and that was I Only Want to Be With You by Dusty Springfield. Because I don't know whether it had been re-released or what, but it seemed to pop up everywhere. People did cover versions of it on television shows, and it was like one of those. It was like an evergreen, even only years after it dropped out of the chart. So my memories of the mid-60s, I was born in 63, so I was still very young, but mid to late 60s is of a lot of records, a lot of pop music, and it's definitely stuck with the way I approach music now. There's a lot of information packed in a lot of those records, those 45s, but my love of Dusty Springfield, it goes way beyond just liking retro music, it's to do with, it's always been there all my life, it's very kind of rich, soulful, and very, very British sound.
Matter
From Dusty, it was a short step for the teenage Johnny Marr to start investigating Detroit's Motown sound via a youthful infatuation with glam rock.
What happened was that my first real love of my own pop music was with glam rock, and I just bought everything. T-Rex were like my band, but all of the glam rock records, whether it was by The Sweet or Mud or Susie Quattro or the Glitter Band and Wizard and all of that stuff, Roxy Music, I absolutely loved. But then after that, I was getting a little too old for examine pop music. But I didn't really like the pop music that was around anyway, and I kind of had a bit of a foray with rock music like a lot of boys do, and I didn't like a lot of that either. So I kind of got into Motown because my friend's sister had a Supremes compilation record that came out in the mid-70s. It was stuff like Stone Love and Love Child and Stop in the Name of Love. I think that was the one for me, really. And I realised that these records were like alive. They sounded like there was like amazing living people making them, because all the instrumentation for a start was just so vibrant. It wasn't this sort of bland stuff. It had real energy in it, and the songs were so good. And then I just decided that I'd just try and track down these old Motown records that I'd seen like in bargain bins, and I never lost my love of that music. I still absolutely love it now,
The 12-year-old Johnny Marr was still known by his real name, John Mayer, when he got his first chance to be in a band as a surrogate Ronnie Wood.
Well, my first band was just me and my mate, and we started this was when I was about 11 or 12 maybe, and he was my best mate, and he was a year older than me, and he was a complete Rod Stewart in the face, his nut, and so he was Rod Stewart, so I sort of defaulted immediately to Ronnie Wood, of course, and that was a good start. I was able to play Stay With Me. It was quite straightforward, and and You Wear It Well, stuff like that. You Wear It Well was one that I really liked. And what was another one? We used to like Gasoline Alley was a song that I really liked.
Were you any good?
Yeah, I had a kind of knack for it, you know. The band was awful, man. The band was terrible. Guitar playing wasn't too bad for a 12-year-old, you know, I suppose. But people used to sort of comment that I was pretty good, you know. But that's how I got to kind of know I was on the right road, really, because people used to make a big deal of the way I played. But I was playing some fairly simple stuff. But the band, no, we couldn't really hold it together. And but, you know, we plodded on for about a year or so. And, you know, we just played in people's gardens. And I remember we did a gig on Silver Jubilee Day. I would have been about 14 then. I really wanted to play Suffragette City by David Bowie. When I think of my first performances in my first band, I always think of Suffragette City, really.
Probably the most significant first in Marr's life would be the first time he met Stephen Morrissey. Both were the sons of Irish immigrants and both were obsessive about music. Marr continued to absorb all genres while Morrissey had nailed his colours to the mast as secretary of the New York Dolls fan club and wrote to the music press at any opportunity. But most of all, both had visions of recreating classic songwriting teams like Bacharach and David or Goffin and King.
First time we met, I went round to his house and introduced myself and I went in and we started immediately just talking about records and it was amazing to find someone who I had those things in common with, because in 80, 81, 82, the things that I'd really kind of become very, very close to me were really quite unusual, you know.
Like what?
Like the Phil Spector records, you know, like say Walking in the Sand by the Shangri-Las I really liked. I really liked Give Him a Great Big Kiss by the Shangri-Las. They were like kind of the band I really liked.
So was that the kind of stuff you were listening to when you were doing the first Smiths records?
No, when we did the first Smiths record, that stuff I mentioned was all part of my kind of musical education, if you like, and what kind of made up my personal identity, you know. You know, you like having stuff of your own, and basically where Morrissey and I had that in common was that our heroes were into that. You know, we got into the girl groups, I think, through the New York Dolls and through Patti Smith and their interviews and them covering those songs. You know, Dolls did Give Him a Great Big Kiss, and Patti Smith did like some Phil Spector stuff. But I think at the time I was listening to a lot of brill building stuff, so it'd be things like I used to like Young Boy Blues by Benny King, who was the singer in the Drifters. I used to listen to that a lot.
What was it about that track?
It was the melody, really, and the strings and the production on it, because you got to remember this was at a time when you know, everybody was listening to synthesizer duos, you know. And in the clubs and stuff where my friends were going, and where I used to go too, there was a lot of early electro, which I really liked. But Young Boy Blues by Benny King is like a long, long way away from that, you know.
Every time I kiss somebody new, I make believe I'm kissing you, but I can't kid making heart, cause my heart knows we're still apart, and each night is like 1,000 years. Oh, I can't lose these young boy blues. I wanna cry when I hear your name, but if I cry I feel ashamed, so I let my pride be my guide, and I keep those tears inside. Each night is like 1,000 years. Oh, since I've lost these young boy blues. Don't know where to go, don't know what to do. I'm so lost and lonely since I've lost you. Every time I kiss somebody new, I make believe I'm kissing you, but I can't kid making heart, cause my heart knows we're still apart, and each night is like 1,000 years. Oh, I can't lose these young boy blues. Each night is like 1,000 years. Oh, I can't lose these young boy blues. Each night is like.
The other thing that's important is that you know, you want to be of your time, you know, you want to represent your age group, I think. So as much as we were unusual when we started out at the Smiths, and when we first sort of landed on people's you know, televisions and radios, we were personally not very typical of our age group, but musically as a band, you know, we came out of post-punk, and we wanted to be modern. You know, we wanted to be a modern group. I remember I liked Homo Sapien by Pete Shelley off his first solo record, because we were really big fans of the Buzzcocks, but Homo Sapien was his new single, And as much as we were banging on about trolling back and liking old stuff, things that were around at the time that spoke to our generation, which were very few things, were, you know, we were into it. Obviously, we were into what was modern, you know. And just when I formed the band, I was going out to clubs a lot, and me and Andy would go out a lot. And occasionally, me and Morrissey would go out too, and Andy and Mike. And Homo Sapien was a track that was on. It was on in the Hacienda when there was only, like, those days when there was only 5 people there. And it was on at a place called Legends in Manchester that we used to go to quite a lot, and Placemates. So that really is evocative of the time when I put the Smiths together. But when you listen to it, it doesn't sound anything like the band, you know.
That's Pete Shelley's Homo Sapien, and this is The First Time.
Six Music.
BBC Six Music.
I'm the sun and the air. All the shyness that is criminally vulgar. I am sun and air of nothing in particular. You shut your mouth, how can you say I go about things the wrong way? I am human and I need to belong, just like everybody else does.
I'm Matt Everitt, and this is The First Time, where we look at the pivotal first moments that made some of our greatest musical artists who they are today. Today we're speaking to Johnny Marr, one of the finest and most influential guitarists ever to strum plectrum on string. Right from the Smiths' early work, Marr's playing and production skills had resulted in some strikingly original music, but an unlikely confluence of rhythm guitar influences came together to inspire the epic track you've just heard, from styles as diverse as American punk to 70s disco.
The most important influence on that record was Disco Stomp by Hamilton Bohannon.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I think if you hear it, you might recognise it. It was a pop record from around about 75, and I would have been about 12 or 13 at the time it came out. But like a lot of records for me, they go in my brain and they sort of stay there, you know, because more than 12 years later it came out in House and Is Now, and it doesn't really. You hear it, you go what? But it was this thing about the rhythm guitar in it. This Bo Diddley type rhythm guitar. It instilled in me a love of a certain kind of rhythm guitar playing, and anyone can do it. It's only one chord, and it's got nothing to do with cleverness. It's just to do with this infectious sort of rhythm, and that was when I first got into that was Disco Stomp. And then via a bit of lateral thinking, another big band for me in the early days of the Smiths was the Gun Club from Los Angeles. And on their second or third album they did a version of Run Through the Jungle by Creedence. And again, even though How Soon Is Now doesn't sound like that, it's I mention it because often, when you're a songwriter, the most tenuous and random kind of inspirations you use them as a jumping off point. And so that boyhood kind of obsession with the guitar part on Disco Stomp, which, as I say, doesn't sound anything like How Soon Is Now, and what I took to be the vibe of the Gun Club's Run Through the Jungle was my jumping off point.
The end of the Smiths, much has been made of the kind of personal wranglings and the kind of inter-band relationships that kind of caused the breakdown. Were there, and I hate to use the phrase, were there musical differences? Did you start pulling in different ways musically?
We would have done, I think. Yeah, that probably would have happened, but we didn't all the time we were together. And the last record was, I think, still is my favourite. We never pulled in different directions when the band was together, but I'm glad that I got to do very different things after that. Speaking personally, I can't really imagine where I'd be at now, kind of musically, had I not been able to do that. That's just my personality, you know, and my own path, if you like. You know, sitting now like 25 years later or something from when the Smiths split, having done so many different types of music involving my playing the guitar, and I feel very not only fortunate but like completely without doubt that it is absolutely necessary, and it's still necessary for me now.
When did you first meet Chrissie Hynde? Let's talk about the Pretenders.
I met Chrissie in like late 87, early 88, and it was just a very fortuitous thing because the Pretenders had a tour to do, and Robbie McIntosh, the guitar player, had left the band, and I really was feeling pretty kind of desperate to get away from all the media nonsense that was around the Smiths split, but I still wanted to play the guitar. So it worked out perfectly for Chrissie and worked out perfectly for me, because I knew a lot of the Pretenders material just by ear, because I loved it when I was younger, and I really liked Jimmy Scott as a guitar player. And she needed a guitar player, so I just joined for one tour. And the truth of it is that my relationship with Chrissie on a personal level was actually more kind of significant, and still is more significant than my time in the band, really.
What do you mean?
Well, my time in the band was like 11 gigs or 12 gigs or something like that, but we're still friends, and we never made an album together. We did a single. We did a really good version of the Stooges' 1969 with Nick Lowe producing, and Nick Lowe was saying, look, I know I have this reputation for saying that's it, one take, but really you've just nailed it. So we said, well, at least let us do it 2 more times, you know, and we did like 3 takes of it, and he was absolutely right. The first take was right, and it's got a live vocal on it. Bang, you know, she did it.
War across the USA.
After that brief but clearly enjoyable time with the Pretenders, Johnny joined The recording and touring with the band, but a close relationship with New Order singer and fellow Mancunian Bernard Sumner led to the formation of his next major band, Electronic.
I regarded Bernard Sumner as the best sort of electronic musician out of the UK, you know, as well as being the killer guitar player in Joy Division. And we'd bumped into each other over the years, and we knew each other, and that was it. And then we started writing, and then this very, very tight friendship started, you know. And the idea of Electronic was it was supposed to not be a group, you know, not be a band anyway, because it was very important that Bernard and myself got away from being in a band, you know. So we wanted to be a new, you know, at that time there was a lot of new kind of groups, like, you know, say S Express and Chic were important to us too, you know, because again that was two people and they built a group around their songs. David Byrne and Brian Eno, David Bowie and Brian Eno, that idea of the studio being the band, that was really important for us. It wasn't just that we were trying to get away from the Smiths and New Order, it was that we were trying to take on those other kind of working practices. And if it's just the two of you and you're like playing everything and writing everything and producing everything and building the studios, that's why it takes a long time. But we liked Kraftwerk as well, and they have even longer gaps in between records. So when you're like one of your favourite bands is Kraftwerk, you know, you feel pretty prolific making a record every 2 years, you know.
And then you get to work with one of them.
Yeah. Carl Bartos joined us on the second album. Yeah.
What was it like meeting him for the first time? Because I mean, he's quite a legendary figure.
Meeting Carl was amazing because we had these ideas about, you know, Kraftwerk, and we expected that we'd go over to Dusseldorf, which we did, and that, you know, we would be met by a robot, and you know, and which he's anything but. And we just got to go into the studio and look at all of their gear and see, you know, he explained to us how certain songs were made and everything. That was really exciting for us. But it was interesting because we wanted to be very, very electronic, and he was interested in being more like a rock musician. It's just an interesting sort of scenario, really. So he wanted to jam, and he came into my place, and we were expecting, as I say, some guy with a clipboard, and he picked up an acoustic guitar of mine and started playing Lazy Sunday Afternoon by the Small Faces, whereas we wanted to sound like Trans-Europe Express, you know. It was a great time. Electronic was so good, and I had some hits that were surprised and that I'm very, very fond of, you know. The main one being Get the Message.
Why that track?
Because it was written very quickly and it has a spirit in it that can really get ironed out of a song if you work on something too long.
I'm Matt Everitt, and you're listening to The First Time with my guest, Johnny Marr. With The Healers, which was a band that you put together, very much put you at the kind of helm of the band.
Yeah.
When did you first decide that you would sing for a start, and you would take the weight of the band on your shoulders?
I really wanted to work with Zach, and we just happened to meet, and we became friends. I didn't really know who he was when we met, and I really wanted to work with Edgar Jones, a bass player who was from the band The Stairs and had a brief stint in the Lars, and now does his own records that are pretty great. And we just were playing as a three-piece, and we just got together and wrote and played, and we didn't have any real idea about getting a record deal or gigs or anything. We were just writing these songs, and I was imagining that one day I would get someone to sing them.
Who did you have in mind?
I didn't have anybody particularly in mind. I didn't want to get a famous singer. I just thought I'd get someone from like an audition or something like that. Finally, you know, I did a bit of fishing around, and I actually found a singer. I don't know who he is to this day, but my friend gave me a cassette of this guy who was going into the music shop in town in Manchester, and he was a really good singer. I wish I could tell you who he was, but I can't. And so I said to the other Healers, like, hey, I found the guy, you know, I found this singer, he's really, really good, strong voice and everything. And the two of them just kind of disappeared to the cafe for an hour's conference, and then came back really conspiratorially and just said to me, we think you should do it, because the way the demos are and the way the songs are right now is more interesting than the way this guy sings. I was flabbergasted, really, and terrified at the same time, but I trusted him, you know. Some people really, really like that record, and that is very gratifying.
What's your favourite track off that record? What track are you most proud of?
Well, the track that kind of, I suppose, is the one that kind of stands out is The Last Ride, which was the first single. It's something when I hear it, I still kind of remember the time really well, and I'm really glad I did it, you know.
joined Modest Mouse in about 2005.
Yeah.
Something of an American alternative rock institution, really. Modest Mouse, aren't they? Can you remember seeing them for the first time?
First time I saw Modest Mouse was I was on the stage.
Really?
I played with them. Yeah, yeah. But I remember the first time I heard them. It was on the Healers tour bus. There was a band called Melodrone who opened up for the Healers on one of our American tours, and the guy Melodrone, he said to me, "Oh, if you really like that music, you've got to get into Modest Mouse. You know, they're the kings of it. You know." Midway through making the second Healers album, or near the end of the second Healers album, Isaac Brock called me from Modest Mouse and wanted to know if I would help them write whatever the record was they were about to write then. It sounded like an interesting experiment. I was by no means convinced it would work. And that was one of my reasons for doing it. I thought it'd just take me out of my comfort zone and be very interesting. So I said, look, okay, well, I'll do the record, but I'll see how it goes for 10 days. We'll just check it out. I'll find out what's going on. I had no idea how the band operated and how they wrote songs. I really couldn't work it out. And having written over an album now of stuff with Modest Mouse, I still don't really know how we write, you know, together. And I like it that way. We couldn't be more right. I mean, when they come over to England, they stay at mine. I live in Portland for a lot of the time, and you know, there's a real brotherhood in that band. You know, I got to actually meet Gary from the Cribs through being in Modest Mouse. You know, it's a very sort of tight relationship between the Cribs and Modest.
I was going to ask you. This is the kind of final up-to-date band question. When did you become Johnny Jarman? When did you fall in love with the Cribs?
I officially joined actually just as we walked on stage.
There's a theme here.
Yeah. It's like the theme is too late to stop now. What have I set in motion? But when we played Leeds and Reading in 2008, I guess, and we headlined the second stage there, and we'd really slammed it at Leeds. It was an amazing night, 18,000 people singing not only the lyrics but the riffs, and it was just so good. And Ryan said to me, "So you're in then or what?" You know, just as we were walking on at Reading. It was pretty great. I'm still a fan, you know. I think it's very important to think like a fan. It was one of the things that really made the Smiths tick, you know. I've never lost that.
We've had all these firsts looking back at your life, but we've now got to pick the last song to play on the show. So I'd like you to pick the last song. It can be one of yours, it can be one of someone else's. It can sum up your original inspiration. It can be anything you want.
Right now I'll pick We Share the Same Skies by the Cribs, purely because it's the most recent single that I've had out. And I think it's probably appropriate to end with my most recent single that I've played the guitar on. And it starts off with a pretty good riff, so that's good reason enough, I think.
BBC Radio 6 Music.